Imagine living your entire life building trust with someone only to discover, when it's far too late, that nothing was what it seemed. This is the chilling reality behind the disturbing case of Kaylie Juga, a case that has haunted Wisconsin, law enforcement, and true crime followers for years. Tonight, we're diving deep into every detail: her vibrant life, her tragic death, the shocking evidence uncovered in her home, the tangled web of relationships that unraveled, and the lingering questions that still haunt those who loved her. Was Kaylie's death a random act of violence? Or was it the culmination of a dangerous obsession? Stay with us until the end. This case unfolds in ways you won't see coming, and the final truths may forever change how you view trust, youth, and betrayal. Welcome to the Crime Decoder, where we unravel the stories behind the headlines, piecing together the human lives, the evidence, and the truths that linger in the shadows. Today, we're exploring the heartbreaking case of 15-year-old Kaylie Juga, a bright, beloved teenager whose life was stolen in a moment of unthinkable violence in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is a story of joy, obsession, and a betrayal that shattered a family and a community. Let's step into Kaylie's world and uncover what really happened. Kaylie Juga was a spark of light in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Born in 2004, she was the middle child of Stephanie and Nick Juga. Growing up alongside her older brother Tyler and younger brother Mason, in a cozy single-story home on a quiet street. At just 15, Kaylie was already leaving her mark as a varsity cheerleader, standout softball player, and an honor roll student at Bradford High School. Her life was a blend of teenage dreams and Midwestern values, rooted in family, community, and an unyielding zest for life. Kaylie's personality was magnetic. She loved pop music, often blasting Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande while dancing with her mom in their living room. Her laughter was legendary. Friends called it contagious, the kind that could derail a conversation into giggles before she'd even finished a joke. Kaylie didn't just light up a room, a classmate recalled. She made you feel like you were the only one in it. Her passion extended to her hobbies. Cheerleading routines she practiced for hours, softball games where she shined as a team player, and schoolwork that earned her a spot on the honor roll. Kaylie dreamed of college, maybe cheering professionally, or pursuing a career that matched her boundless energy. The Juga household was a warm, bustling hub. Stephanie ran a photography business from home, capturing weddings and family portraits, which gave her flexibility to be there for her kids. Nick worked long hours but cherished family dinners and weekends, watching Mason's youth football games. Tyler, now in his early 20s, had moved out but stayed close, often checking in on his siblings. Mason, at 11, idolized Kaylie, trailing her around the house and mimicking her dance moves. Their Kenosha neighborhood, with its tree-lined streets and friendly neighbors, felt like a safe cocoon, a place where kids could be kids and families felt secure. In 2018, Kaylie's life took a new turn when she met Martis Fuller, a 15-year-old fellow sophomore at Bradford High. Martis was a rising star in his own right, a quarterback on the football team and a talented basketball player with dreams of a college scholarship. To the Juga family, he seemed like a perfect match for Kay. Charming, ambitious, and respectful. They welcomed him into their home, inviting him to dinners 2 to 3 times a week, movie nights with popcorn and blankets, and even holiday celebrations. On Christmas Day 2018, Martis joined them for gift exchanges and hot cocoa, laughing alongside Kaylie and her family. For 10 months, he was a fixture in their lives, almost like a fourth child. But what began as a sweet high school romance soon revealed darker undercurrents. Martis's affection for Kaylie wasn't just love, it was becoming an obsession, and as we'll see, the cracks in their relationship would grow into a chasm that no one could have foreseen, leading to a day that would change everything. May 9th, 2019, was an unremarkable Thursday in Kenosha, Wisconsin. The spring air was crisp, the neighborhood quiet, and the Juga family was settling into their afternoon routine. Just before 2 p.m., Stephanie left their home to pick up Kaylie from Bradford High School. Her photography business allowed her to do the school run daily, a ritual she cherished with her daughter. At around 2:20 p.m., they pulled into their driveway, the garage door rumbling open as they stepped inside, laughing and chatting. Inside, the house came alive with music. Kay and Stephanie cranked up a playlist, likely one of Kaylie's favorites, and danced in the living room, their laughter echoing through the halls. It was their special time, a daily moment of joy when it was just the two of them. Nick was at work, Mason was still at school, and Tyler was out on his own. Kaylie soon headed to her bedroom to change for her part-time job, while Stephanie retreated to the master bathroom to dry her hair, the hum of the hairdryer blending with the music. Then, at exactly 3 p.m., the unthinkable happened. 7 gunshots pierced the air, their sharp cracks captured by a neighbor's doorbell camera across the street. Screams followed, raw and desperate, as a hooded figure dressed in black bolted from the garage, disappearing into the quiet streets of Kenosha. Inside, Kaylie and Stephanie were fighting for their lives. Locked in the master bathroom, Stephanie's mind raced. She suspected the shooter was Martis Fuller, Kay's ex-boyfriend, but fear kept her frozen. Had he left, or was he still in the house? Clutching her phone, she dialed 911 at 3:02 p.m., her voice trembling with panic. "Someone shot my daughter," she told the operator, her words choked with dread. "I think it was her ex-boyfriend. Please, hurry." Despite the danger, Stephanie's maternal instinct overpowered her fear. She left the bathroom and ran to Kaylie's room, where she found her daughter on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. Stephanie herself had been shot a bullet through her left arm just above the wrist, another in her right side. Ignoring her pain, she began CPR, pressing on Kaylie's chest with shaking hands, willing her to breathe. Deputies from the Kenosha Sheriff's Department and EMTs arrived within minutes, finding Stephanie still trying to save her daughter. Paramedics moved Kaylie to the front yard for emergency treatment, but her injuries were too severe. The Milwaukee County Medical Examiner later reported 5 gunshot wounds, 4 to her chest, 1 to her head, delivered with brutal precision. Even a team of surgeons in the room couldn't have saved her. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Stephanie, bleeding and in shock, was rushed to a hospital just blocks away, where she underwent multiple surgeries to her arm, chest, and abdomen. As investigators secured the scene, they uncovered chilling details. 6 shell casings were found scattered across the house, the 7th later discovered under a console table near the stairs. Blood droplets traced a path along the staircase, and a projectile was lodged at the landing. In Kaylie's room, casings clustered near her mirror, embedded in the plush carpet, and a bullet in the floorboard suggested a final close-range shot. Outside, on the sidewalk leading to Horizon Park, a nearby green space with playgrounds and trails, a single bullet matching the murder weapon was found, likely dropped by the shooter in their haste. From her hospital bed, Stephanie recounted the horror to detectives. She heard a blood-curdling scream and a loud bang from Kaylie's room. Running to check, she stopped dead at the doorway, facing Martis Fuller, gun in hand. "Please, you don't have to do this," she pleaded, her voice breaking. His response was cold and final. "Yes, I do." He raised the gun and fired. Stephanie dove behind her bedroom door, but Martis kicked it open, firing again. She barely made it to the bathroom, locking the door and calling her husband, then 911. This wasn't a random break. It was a targeted attack, rooted in a relationship gone terribly wrong. He kept Kaylie on video calls for hours, even when she was doing homework, watching TV, or texting friends. If she went out, his calls and texts were incessant, sometimes dozens in an hour. Stephanie noticed Kaylie's stress, her phone buzzing relentlessly during family time. She sat Martis down, gently explaining that his behavior was overwhelming. He laughed it off, shrugging as if it were a joke, and continued as before. The relationship grew strained on social media, where teenage drama played out publicly. Rumors spread that Martis was seeing another girl, prompting a friend to post, "Kay deserves better." Kaylie vented her frustration on Twitter, writing, "I didn't do anything. I'm sick and tired of this." Martis fired back with accusations of her infidelity, escalating the tension. Another post from a third party read, "Me or Kaylie? You cheated on both of us." The online chaos mirrored their deteriorating dynamic. At Bradford High, Martis's behavior became alarming. In one incident, he blocked Kaylie in a hallway, demanding her phone in a heated confrontation. School security intervened, restraining him as Kaylie broke down in tears. The school issued a strict warning. One more incident, and Martis would face expulsion, losing his sports privileges and scholarship prospects. They separated his and Kaylie's class schedules, ordering him to keep his distance. In February 2019, Martis violated the agreement, cornering Kaylie again, in a recorded incident witnessed by teachers. This time the school followed through. Martis was expelled. His dreams of college sports crumbled, and his anger grew. Kaylie, shaken but determined, ended the relationship. On social media, she posted about someone taking advantage of her, writing, "Start having respect for yourself." It was a declaration of independence, but it came at a cost. Martis's obsession intensified. He began stalking Kaylie, pacing outside her house in the afternoons and lurking near her bedroom window at night. When she blocked his number, he used friends' phones, sometimes tricking her into answering by having them speak first. Kaylie and her friends stopped posting their locations online, fearing he'd show up uninvited. The constant harassment forced Kaylie to resign from her first job at a local laundromat, or even precautions like locking doors and blocking Martis's number couldn't ease her anxiety. In April 2019, Kaylie wrote a letter to her employer. "Thank you for this opportunity, but for my safety, I need a job where he won't know where I am. I need to be around more people." She found new work, hoping to escape Martis's reach. But his fixation was unrelenting, and the events of May 9th were looming a tragedy that would expose the dangers of his obsession. In the aftermath of the shooting, Kenosha police launched a citywide manhunt for Martis Fuller. He hadn't been living at his mother's house for weeks, instead bouncing between friends' homes, crashing on couches, and relying on Wi-Fi to stay connected. His mother, Elise, insisted he was with her from noon to 3 p.m. on May 9th, covering the time of the murder. But a friend, Alexis, contradicted her, saying she dropped Martis off at a friend's house 10 blocks from the Juga home at 1 p.m. When she picked him up at 3:30 p.m., his white sneakers were caked with dirt, and he seemed visibly distraught. The next morning, May 10th, Martis's cousin Anise Andrews called police from Racine, about 10 miles from Kenosha. Martis had shown up at her home at 9 p.m. the previous night, unexpected and unannounced. Anise, a mother herself, initially told police only that she knew they were looking for her cousin and didn't believe he was capable of such a crime. But detectives pressed her, asking how she'd feel if her own 6-year-old son or 4-year-old daughter had been killed in their home. The question hit hard. Anise returned to the station and revealed a bombshell. Martis had confessed to her, according to Anise. Martis admitted he'd been watching the Juga house for days, memorizing Stephanie and Kaylie's schedule. He knew Nick would be at work and Mason at school, leaving Kaylie and Stephanie alone. He hid his bike among the trees at Horizon Park, changed into black clothing, and entered through the open garage. He shot Kaylie once, then freaked out and fired again, before turning the gun on Stephanie. His plan, he said, was to shoot Kaylie once or twice, but something snapped, and the violence escalated. Surveillance footage corroborated Annis's account with eerie precision. At 1 p.m., a camera near a friend's house captured Martis in a gray hoodie, dark jeans, white sneakers, and a black backpack. A doorbell camera later showed a figure in similar attire, biking toward the Juga home just a half-mile away. Across from their house, Horizon Park offered Covor a sprawling green space with playgrounds, trails, and a tree line perfect for concealment. Another camera caught a figure in all black, still wearing white sneakers, moving carefully to avoid detection before slipping into the garage. Just over a minute later at 3 p.m., a single shot rang out, followed by a 16-second pause, then 6 more in rapid succession, 7 shots total. The figure fled the garage, sprinting toward Horizon Park. At 3:04 p.m., a camera captured them, biking away, now back in a gray hoodie, moving twice as fast as before. The timeline aligned perfectly with Stephanie's 911 call at 3:02 p.m. Investigators noted Martis's calculated approach. The Juga family's cameras were malfunctioning that day, but he still hugged the walls of neighboring homes to avoid detection. The bullet found on the sidewalk near Horizon Park suggested he dropped it en route, a careless mistake in an otherwise meticulous plan. Another cousin, Dontrell Seymour, led police to the murder weapon, a handgun wrapped in a diaper, stuffed in a Racine sewer. The black hoodie and white sneakers were never found, likely discarded in another sewer between Kenosha and Racine. Martis's backpack and other clothes were recovered when Anise turned him in. Martis was charged with first-degree intentional homicide and attempted first-degree homicide. But before his trial, he faced further scrutiny. Prosecutors alleged he tried tampering with the jury, memorizing names from a juror list during jail calls, and attempting to contact them through intermediaries, His mother, Elise, was arrested after an outburst in a pretrial hearing. Charged with obstructing an officer after exchanging heated words with court staff, the case was growing more complex, revealing a teenager whose actions suggested not just desperation, but chilling intent. The trial of Martis Fuller began in May 2020, exactly 1 year after Kaylie's death. The Kenosha County Courthouse was a powder keg of emotion-grieving family members, supporters of Martis clinging to his innocence, and reporters capturing every detail. The case had gripped national attention, with headlines branding Martis a vengeful ex-boyfriend driven by obsession. But in the courtroom, the truth would come down to evidence, testimony, and the jury's verdict. Prosecutors built their case on 2 parallel timelines: Kaylie's desperate efforts to escape a toxic relationship and Martis's escalating anger over losing control. They traced his actions in the weeks leading up to May 9th. 7 days before the murder, Martis posed with a handgun in photos, showing it off to friends and bragging about his new acquisition. 3 days before, he told a friend, "Kaylie ruined my life. I want her dead." 2 days before, he scoured her social media for her whereabouts and stashed a bike at a friend's house just blocks from the Juga home, watching their street day and night. On the morning of May 9th, Martis messaged a friend, Desiree, asking her to do the hit with him, a phrase she understood as a plan to kill Kaylie based on earlier conversations. Desiree refused but didn't alert anyone, a decision she'd later regret. She testified from a juvenile facility where she was serving time for unrelated charges, her voice heavy with guilt. The murder weapon became a focal point. Martis's cousin Dontrell led police to a Racine sewer where they found a handgun wrapped in a diaper, bizarre but effective hiding method. Without his tip, detectives believed it would have remained lost. The black hoodie and white sneakers Martis wore were never recovered, likely discarded in another sewer. But his backpack and other clothes were found when a niece turned him in. Jill Schwensen, Bradford High's assistant principal, delivered chilling testimony. As the school's disciplinarian, she dealt with countless troubled teens, but Martis stood out. After his expulsion, he called her repeatedly, trying to reverse the decision, even pointing a finger in her face and calling her a liar. "He scared me," she admitted, a rare confession from someone with years of experience. His rage over losing Kay in his school life painted a portrait of a teenager spiraling out of control. Stephanie's testimony was the emotional heart of the trial. She described running from her bathroom to Kaylie's room, only to find Martis at the doorway, gun raised. "Oh my God, Martis," she cried, pleading, "you don't have to do this." His response, "Yes, I do," was cold and deliberate. He fired, and as she fled behind her bedroom door, he kicked it open and shot again. Locked in the bathroom, she called her husband, then 911. Returning to Kaylie, she performed CPR despite her own wounds, her hands slick with blood. "It was so painful," she said, "but saving her was all that mattered." Kaylie died in her room, her mother's efforts in vain. Nessa's testimony was devastating. She recounted Martis's confession. He'd staked out the Juga home, knowing when Kaylie would be alone with Stephanie. He shot Kaylie once, then snapped, firing more shots and targeting Stephanie. Anissa, mother, said she listened in shock, only contacting police after reflecting on the pain of losing a child. The defense argued Stephanie misidentified Martis in the chaos, suggesting police fixated on him without exploring other suspects. They claimed the timeline for minutes to flee the house, change clothes, and bike away was impossible for a single person. Prosecutors countered with math. The Juga home was 0.32 miles from Horizon Park, a distance a high school athlete could sprint in under a minute. Biking to the doorbell camera, 0.17 miles away, took 30 to 40 seconds at speed. It left 2 to 3 minutes to change clothes, likely a pull-on black warm-up suit designed for quick removal. The timeline wasn't just possible, it was flawless. The defense called no witnesses, and Martis didn't testify. Prosecutors closed by dismantling his innocence claim. What a horrible coincidence, they said, that his cousin knew details of the crime before police released them and led them to the murder weapon, which matched one he'd shown friends. The evidence was overwhelming: surveillance, the gun, Stephanie's testimony, and Annis's account of his confession. After just a few hours, the jury returned with guilty verdicts for first-degree intentional homicide and attempted first-degree homicide. Martis, now 16, tore off his face mask and sobbed, the reality of a life sentence sinking in as he looked to his family in the gallery. At the sentencing hearing, Martis's attorney read a prepared statement. Martis expressed sorrow for Kaylie's death, saying he loved her and that his lack of emotion was due to his own grief, having no tears left to cry. He maintained his innocence, claiming the hatred against him was unfair. The judge was unmoved, calling Martis emotionless, dangerous, and damaged. He sentenced him to life without parole, a rare punishment for a teenager. Martis is now at Green Bay Correctional Institute, where his family visits regularly, grappling with the loss of a son and the weight of his actions. Kenosha was left in mourning. Kaylie wasn't just a victim in a news story. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend whose laughter and warmth touched everyone. Her cheerleading team fought to honor her with a special routine and a moment of silence, initially blocked by the school board due to legal concerns over both Kaylie and Martis being students. Public outrage fueled by Nick's heartfelt plea, "My wife was shot trying to save our daughter and they can't do a 5-minute memorial," forced the board to relent. The memorial drew dozens, with candles illuminating the night as friends shared stories of Kaylie's joy. Stephanie, still bearing physical and emotional scars, spoke on what would have been Kaylie's 20th birthday in 2024. 5 years without her, and it feels like yesterday, she said, her voice breaking. The Juga family has channeled their grief into action, supporting scholarships and community initiatives in Kaylie's name, ensuring her legacy of kindness endures. Nick, Tyler, and Mason carry her memory in their daily lives, finding solace in moments that echo her laughter. But the case left lingering questions. Could the school have intervened earlier, recognizing Martis's behavior as a red flag? Did teachers and friends miss opportunities to report his stalking? Kaylie's resignation letter from her job was a cry for help. Did anyone fully grasp her fear? Some in Kenosha believe the system failed to protect her, allowing Martis's obsession to escalate unchecked. Kaylie Juga's story is a devastating reminder of how quickly love can twist into obsession, and how trust can be exploited in the most tragic ways. Her life was defined by joy, her laughter, her passion, her dreams, not by the violence that took her. Yet her death forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about teen relationships, stalking, and the warning signs that can hide in plain sight. This case sparked a broader conversation in Kenosha and beyond. How do we recognize emotional abuse before it turns deadly? How do we empower young people to seek help and ensure schools and communities act swiftly? Kaylie's story underscores the need for education about healthy relationships, for systems to protect victims of stalking, and for families to listen when someone says they're afraid. For the Juga family, the pain of losing Kaylie will never fade, but they hold on to her light. Her memory inspires us to be vigilant, to protect those we love, and to advocate for change. Let's honor Kaylie by learning from her story, by listening, acting, and ensuring no one else suffers in silence. Thank you for joining the Crime Decoder as we unraveled the tragic case of Kaylie Juga. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and join us for more deep dives into the cases that challenge our hearts and minds. Share your thoughts in the comments. What can we do to prevent tragedies like this?